Red button, red button, red button. Boy, tell them say we everybody jump, we back from the every man, back from the every, and we back from the every man. Show them how we perform, we back from the every man, back from the every, and we back from the every man. Boy, tell them it's not now, it's long time, it's long time, it's long time. We made for this, it's long time, it's long time, it's long time. We made for this. Anytime I touch the stage, let's take them off in the cage, uncontrollable again. I'm clinically insane. Long before I get the name, my story really used to share. Tell them we terrible, terrible, terrible. Go tell them we terrible, terrible, terrible. Why? Anytime we touch it, anytime we touch it, we won't play mother again. We back from the every man, back from the every, and we back from the every man. Show them how we perform. We back from the every man, back from the every, and we back from the every man. Why? Let them say we back. Everybody jump. We back from the every man, back from the every, and we back from the every man. Show them how we perform. We back from the every man, back from the every, we back from the every man. Whoa. From the tender age of 4, I'm mashing up the dance floor. I love to party galore. And when I was 24, headband was a hit for sure. I start kicking down the door. And every terrible, terrible, terrible. Go tell them we terrible, terrible, terrible. Boy, anytime we touch it, anytime we touch it, the world plays brothers again. We back from the every man, back from the every, and we back from the every man. Show them how we perform. We back from the every man, back from the every, and we back from the every man. Boy, from I was a little lad. But tell them it's not now. It's long time, yeah, it's long time, it's long time. We made for this. It's long time, it's long time, it's long time. We made for this. You know what I'm saying? So next to when you're coming out. Everybody jump. We back from the every man, back from the every. We back from the every man. Show them how we perform. We back from the every man, back from the every. We back from the every man. Red button, red button, red button. Boy, tell them say we back. Everybody jump. We back from the every man, back from the every, and we back from the every man. Show them how we perform. We back from the every man, back from the every, and we back from the every man. Whoa, tell them it's not now. It's long time, it's long time, it's long time. We made for this. It's long time, it's long time, it's long time. We made for this. Anytime I touch the stage, let's take them off in the cage, uncontrollable again. I'm clinically insane. Long before I get the name, my story really used to share. Tell them we terrible, terrible, terrible. Go tell them we terrible, terrible, terrible. Why? Anytime we touch it, anytime we touch it, we won't play mother again. We back from the every man, back from the every, and we back from the every man. Show them how we.
Well, St. Vincent and Grenadines, at this time we're going to present you with the program On the Record with Senator James and Senator Keisal Peaches here on the inside. Of course, the number to call to get interactive here is 451-7827, or you can reach us on WhatsApp at 534-7827. So now turn you over to Keisal and Carlos. Good morning to you guys. Welcome to On the Record.
Good morning to you. Good morning, Carlos. Good morning to our listeners in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and scattered all around the world because, we have Vincentians everywhere. Good morning to you and even the non-Vincentians and the Vincentians at heart. Welcome to another edition of On the Record with yours truly, Keisal Melissa Peters, a.k.a. KMP, a.k.a. Big Deal. And I'm here with my brother, Carlos James. Hi, Carlos.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Keisal, and good morning to all those who are locked on, those who are listening via various media outlets and platforms across social media. This morning, Keisal, we are starting a little bit late. I want to assure, well, I've been advised or instructed to assure the listening audience that, yes, it was not a technical difficulty. No fault of Bling this morning. But we in fact, we're just coming from the select committee of the parliament where this morning from 9, we had a number of bills which will go to the parliament on Thursday. And the final stage of the select committee meeting was held this morning. So we do apologize for the late start. Keisal and I had definitely some work to do in relation to tidying up and cleaning up of the bill as part of the select committee. Those bills, Keisal, which we'll be dealing with primarily on Thursday, were today the select committee met in relation to you can state the bills.
Yes, the daily paid and minor salary gratuity bill and the pensions amendment bill.
Yes. And of course, we had to make our contribution and representation there on behalf of the opposition, but also the working people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So we do apologize for the late start this morning, but I want to of course welcome all the listeners to this program. Persons already locked on and waiting, and I know Austin, you're off this morning. I realize that you're probably on night shift. Welcome. My good brother Austin King is on. Jacqueline George, Sylvia Bailey, Lucky Lucky is here. Zilla John, Annette Vera, of course Lavone, and quite a few of the other comrades who are locked on this morning. We want to
and Kenisha.
Yes, we want to welcome you to the program, and of course those who are listening across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Not just we're bigging up a lot of them who are online, and most of them are overseas. But of course those here in St. Vincent who are locked on the various frequency modulation 98.3, and what's the other one? 104. 104.7. Yes, of course. If you're locked on from the North Leeward, then you'll be likely on 104.7, and Kingston and the surrounding areas 98.3 FM frequency modulation. And we're happy you're on the program and joining us here this morning for this yet another edition of On the Record.
Yeah. So, before we get into the thick of things, Carlos, I don't know if you've been following the World Cup games that have been happening, but I looked at 3 games yesterday, off and on. I was trying to do some other things. And the last 2 games yesterday, between Germany and Paraguay, and the Netherlands, and who was the other team they were playing against, lad? It's gone out of my memory now. But Germany and Netherlands, they have not made it into the 32. And, from listening to the commentators, a lot of the European countries are favorites coming into the World Cup, because, a lot of their players play for a lot of the more well-known football clubs across the world, and especially in Europe. So it was a massive upset last night when Morocco sent the Netherlands packing. So Morocco would advance to the 32, the group of 32. And then earlier in the day, Paraguay sent Germany packing. So 2 major European powerhouses out of the competition. And, you could feel it for the players, the fans. But this is the thing about competing. You could only have one winner. At the end of the day for something like this. So, it's just good to see how the World Cup could bring people together, different nationals together in one place. I saw when Brazil beat Japan to advance in the 32, there were some Japanese fans standing with some Brazilian fans, and they were teasing them and say, hold the Brazilian flag, hold it, man, hold it. We know you're hurting, but, one love still.
There's usually a saying in relation to the World Cup that the official World Cup actually starts this weekend.
Yeah. But I've been watching it, and what I loved about it, and I made the observation to a few persons, is that the usual, as I've said, the powerhouses, the European countries who are well known and well favored, a lot of them had a rough start coming out the blocks for the tournament. You have teams that you would regard as underdogs or unknowns, giving them a run for their money, and them having to regroup and get themselves together and come back looking stronger and more like the teams that people know and love. So it's just an interesting thing to note what is happening. And then I saw last night in a news clipping that the Italian coach, the coach for the Italian team, and as fate would have it, I was asking, well, wait, Italy is not in the 48 this year. I'm not seeing them. Mm-hmm. He was complaining that the designated spots for African countries was too much. Africa, I think, has about 9 designated spots in the World Cup for the 48. And he's complaining that, this is too much. It is unfair. And, and properly people dealt with him in the comments. And people made the observation as well that if you look at a lot of the teams, a lot of the players are of African descent. So it's black excellence all around. When I saw the headline, I immediately said reparations and reparatory justice. And, Comrade Leader was on yesterday speaking about the recent meeting he attended in Ghana on the bigger issue of reparations. But I think going forward in all the different spheres that the international community has to realize, certain injustices that were done and certain things that they have to make right, because geographically, Africa has more countries than Europe. So people were saying, if you look at that ratio, naturally, Africa should get more than 9 designated slots. Mm-hmm. More than Europe, but we are happy with the starting point that they've increased it to 9, but it really should be more geographically speaking in terms of representation. And then people made the point that on almost every team, you are seeing young men of African descent, and it's good to see it's black excellence being displayed all around. So, there are different interesting conversations coming out of the World Cup if you're following it, and it's just a good thing to see. So I'm looking forward to it. We have Carnival weekend coming up. So some people who are not into Carnival may use the weekend to catch up on the games, because you see, this weekend is when they might say World Cup really starts. Yeah.
And I'm quite impressed of your expertise. Of you see you're carrying quite a few of the games.
Yeah. I'm a daddy's girl. Yeah. I'm a daddy's girl. I grew up with cricket and football, so a lot of the things I know I learned from him. Yes.
Okay, so we are going to get into the program, straight into the program. As I said earlier, the late start is as a result of the parliamentary proceedings of the Select Committee meeting of a few of the bills we had to discuss this morning. But Keisal, this morning we will focus a bit on a few things. One of them being the sudden announcement of the cancellation of Delta to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yes.
The flights coming out directly from the U.S. Eastern Seaboard from Atlanta into St. Vincent and the Grenadines International Airport. Delta has now terminated that service permanently, and of course we'll go a bit into that later. The constitutional amendment bills continue to attract some attention. It's listed on the order paper for Parliament. The parliamentary sitting is, of course, at 10 o'clock on this Thursday. And those bills continue to feature as part of the order paper. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But importantly as well, we'll go into the details on the cap on fuel prices and of course the cap on electricity, which was proposed as one of those economic measures by the current Prime Minister in addressing the nation after they took how much period before they established this committee task force, which we had made that proposal here, and they took a significant time prior to before they could have announced the task force, but then coming to it took another month at least before we saw the proposals from the task force. And of course, some of them are not being honored here because one of the things in politics and as a leader of a country, you have to have is credibility. And when you say you're going to do something, the people expect that you're going to do it. And from yesterday at the pump, those who were fueling gasoline and diesel would recognize that there was no cap. At the pump in terms of fuel. And that to me is of great consideration when you look at the idea of putting in place a cost cutting measures or economic measures to soften the fall off in terms of fuel prices. And then you make that announcement in a national broadcast to the country. And then, to hear a few weeks down the road, well, that is no longer the case. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on as well, Keisal. But we can shoot and go straight into this issue regarding Delta, the cancellation. I want to say good morning, especially to Velma Bentic, who's locked on. Good morning, Velma, and Kojo. Kojo's already jumped in and commenting on the cap as well.
And he has cap in caps.
yes. And I see Mags and all of the other Fake Kato and all of the other posts.
Well, I'm seeing belated birthday greetings to Fake Kato. So Faye, happy belated birthday to you. I hope you had fun.
Yes. So welcome to those who just joined us on the program. Now, I want to, I'm going to be very guarded in the discussion on the Delta arrangements because it was during our time that we had those preliminary discussions with Delta in coming to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I want to say something to you because having had the experience of being the Minister of Civil Aviation, the Minister of Tourism, but also one of perhaps the only Minister of Tourism in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and perhaps one of the few Ministers of Tourism in the region who has had training, exposure and training and certification in airline negotiations and airline marketing and negotiations. There was a program in which I facilitated all of our directors of sales in the UK, in North America, both in Canada and the US, as well as at the time the former CEO of the Tourism Authority and myself. And I said, look, all of us, we're going to go out there, we're going to meet with airlines, we're going to have these discussions and so on. We have to be trained and competent to negotiate and to work with airlines and to understand how the dynamics of when an airline decide that they're going to come to your country, what are the mechanisms they're putting in place. So essentially, the Caribbean Tourism Organization facilitated one of those programs. I was fortunate to be one of the ministers within the region to benefit from that training. So having had the knowledge and the background information as to working with airlines and sitting in the negotiating room with airlines and understanding how the dynamics of how it works. Now, I've been following the comments, and there are persons who would say, well, Delta is cancelling flights across different regions, and St. Vincent is no exception within the Caribbean region. I've heard that, there are had any Vincentians in Atlanta. We were surprised why they were traveling from Atlanta in the first place. And comments surrounding varying reasons, and there are a lot of experts, quote-unquote, social media experts on these things. And I smiled because you have to understand the purpose of why an airline would travel to a destination, especially a destination like St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I want to make it very clear how that is done. they're going to look at the numbers. And of course, when they looked at the numbers, they knew what the airlift capacity would look like when they made that decision to come. So it's not a matter of, oh, well, the airlift capacity. They will give a PR response in their media releases to say, well, these are the reasons why we're not coming. But of course, from the very outset, they would have done their numbers. They would have crunched their numbers, done their research, and know where the bulk of the visitors to St. Vincent are coming from, and what decision would lead them to select St. Vincent as a destination to travel to. So let's start from the outset that they knew what the numbers were likely going to be. They knew what the numbers were before they even decided to travel to St. Vincent and making St. Vincent as a destination for them to operate. What any airline, and I'm going to give the general term, not specific to Delta, but generally, any major airline is going to look at is the future of the country's tourism plan. How you intend to build out your tourism product. That is what they're going to look at. They're going to look at significantly what is your current room stock. They're going to give consideration towards plans in the next 36 to 48 months, how you intend to deal with your room stock then. In the next 3 to 4 years or 5 years, what your room stock is likely to look like then. And they make their determination and their decisions to travel to a destination based on those things. And also they look at the country's aggressive move towards marketing, because also market support is a critical component to come in. And not just market support financially, but I'm talking how a country markets their destination, going into the different areas in terms of, for instance, you're going into Atlanta. What support are you going to give Delta there in terms of taking your marketing team to meet with travel advisors and travel agents and so on out in Atlanta, in the eastern seaboard, in relation, the western seaboard in relation to the connectivity, because Delta is in that operation in Atlanta is not just servicing people coming from Atlanta. It is in fact one of the largest commercial hubs within the U.S. So there are people traveling from different places to travel into Atlanta to connect with Delta. It's literally a hub, just as how JFK and Miami service as hubs.
Right.
So Miami would service the southern seaboard. JFK would be on the eastern side, and on the western side, Atlanta would also be one of those hubs in which you connectivity of persons. So it's not just about they don't certainly look at how many Vincentians are in Atlanta, because that's not their niche market. It's not the diaspora community.
Correct.
They certainly do not look at how many persons from Atlanta travel to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's not even the intent here. The intention is how they can use that hub as a connecting point to bring persons from other parts of the U.S. into Atlanta, then to move them from Atlanta to the Caribbean region. And of course, they're going to then, as I said, look at the potential of the country's ability to provide that marketing support and push to drive traffic into Atlanta. Because while they will be doing their own marketing, you also have to provide the support to drive traffic into Atlanta to connect, to get to St. Vincent. That's how it's done.
Right.
And that's why when in the very first few months of when we came off of COVID and the volcano, I was out there hitting the pavement. It's going to some places where, unfortunately, there are people who don't know where St. Vincent and Grenadines is. Parts of the Caribbean. Some people think that Barbados and St. Vincent is part of Jamaica.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ignorance as to the islands that make up the Caribbean. So it's about going out there and doing that, connecting with travel advisors, making sure that they're able to sell you the product, which is the destination, and connecting with all of the various clients and agents and so on, on the western seaboard in particular, as it relates to getting connectivity into Delta, then into Atlanta, through Delta to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So that's the first thing. They look at how supportive you are in providing that support for them in relation to that. But importantly, as I said, they will know what the numbers are. So it's not, oh, well, the numbers are low, so we're pulling out. They expected the numbers to be low coming in. But what they're essentially doing at the time when they came to St. Vincent is what you call route development. So it's based on projections. They knew that by the middle of this term, you would have seen at least the start or the construction of a Marriott hotel. And they knew by 2026, 2027, we would have been seeing the construction, the start at least, the commencement of a Marriott hotel as well to add to the room stock. And they knew by the end of, which is beaches and Marriott.
Right.
And they knew, based on what the discussions were surrounding that point, that by the year 2030, we would have been turning the keys to at least 2 or 3 brand new hotels, including Palm Island, beaches at Moncton, Marriott at Peters Hope. They knew by the year 2030, we would have had the operationalization of those 3 hotels to add to the room stock. And in conjunction with Sandals and all of the other hotels and so on that are expanding. So with by driving traffic through market support from the destination, but also bearing in mind that the destination is going to add another 1,000 rooms thereabout within the next 48 to months or whatever the case will be, and potentially they will see another particular destination. So it's all based on the future prospect of the potential of the destination. And you go in very early to ensure that you stake your claim, and your route planners will develop that route and will grow that route over a period of time. And of course, during that period as well, Sandals were seeing a lot of heavy bookings to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So there was a great appetite as well to drive traffic to the destination. And what transpired in Jamaica as well had a good bit to do with it, because Sandals, they have now revamped a lot of their hotels in Jamaica following the hurricane that passed.
Melissa.
And now they are now on a heavy marketing drive, shifting pretty much away from, I would say, the Southern Caribbean now to get Jamaica up and running again.
Yeah.
But there's also Curacao. There's a heavy competition now from Curacao. Also, Sandals Curacao. That is driving a lot of growth. St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the first quarter of 2025 recorded the fastest growing recorded market coming out of the US in terms of source markets. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Little St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the fastest growing tourism economy in terms of stayover arrivals coming from the US source market in Q1 of 2025. And that had a lot to do with the drive based on what we were doing as a government, but also the support that we saw from the airlines and the support from Sandals, and there was an ecosystem that was at work. And followed us was Curacao. And the reason for that is because we control the market in terms of driving the sales. And a lot of the travel advisors, they were on clear instructions, both from my level as Minister of Tourism and also from the senior persons within Sandals. They say, listen, this is the market we're selling. This is the market where we want everyone to go. And that's where you saw the sales, you saw the aggressive push. And because you had the sales in Q1 of 2025, you now had to find more planes to bring people. And I can tell you, I know of other ministers during that period who said to me and to other persons, well, St. Vincent is getting all the attention right now, and everybody looking like they coming to say. I say, well, we're emerging at the right time, the right moment, and the right time. But it also had a lot to do, and I want to give credit to Comrade Ralph in his vision in building that international airport. My successes as Minister of Tourism could not have been possible without that airport and without the vision of Ralph. And the successes of all of the hoteliers, including Sandals coming here, could not have been possible without the international airport. So it is clearly a chicken and egg situation. You build the airport, you put in the infrastructure, the hotels will follow, and if the hotels are developing, the people, the heads will follow to fit into the beds. And then if there's a great demand for that destination, then of course the airlines are going to follow as well.
Right.
And that is what you saw. So when you see airlines were landing here from all different places and so on, it wasn't just about we providing market support where there's a financial revenue guarantee, but it was a lot to do with proper coordination, decent professional coordination with the airlines. There was dialogue, there was conversations, and I understand that currently the leadership is so lacking where there's no direct airline executives who are senior VPs and so on. They reach out to me still and say, well, now that you're no longer the minister, we're not sure, what's happening there. It's a lot. There's a lot of uncertainty. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is really right now the direction in where tourism is going. We see that there may be a lot of promise, but we don't know with clarity what the direction is, because there's no dialogue with the airlines. There's no conversation or communication with the airlines. You have to be out there. You have to meet with them. You must have that direct interface and so on. I had the VPs of nearly every major airline on speed dial.
Yeah.
And we will communicate. So to the cruise lines, I had all of the directors of government relations and so on, the executive vice presidents. We communicated almost on a weekly basis, even if it's to check in and say, hey, what's happening on the island? What are the new developments taking place? And I'm asking them about the industry, moves and so on. What is taking place in terms of the industry? How they see down the road potentially. It's always about where you are down the road. It's never about the immediate. So all of the successes you're seeing now in tourism is as a result of the hard work that was done prior to now generate the kind of traffic and the volume that you're seeing now. And of course, the successes in the future. So when you're now acting in that position, in leadership position, you're not discussing the now. You're discussing what is happening 12 months from now. What are the industry moves that are going to generate more traffic or affect sales to the destination? How a fuel price is going to trigger certain challenges for both cruise lines as well as the aviation sector. What airlines are likely to come on board because of the potential to add more rooms to your destination? And I would tell you, almost every conversation we had was a conversation about our room stock. We're driving sales, we're increasing room stock, we're going to add 1,200 rooms by such and such date. And we had strict timelines. We said, look, these are the numbers we're working with. In 12 months, in 48 months, you're going to see A, B, C, D. And it is based on those projections, airlines will make the decision and determination to travel to your destination. It's not about the now. It's not even about the traffic now. So even if you're saying, oh, well, the plane was coming to St. Vincent half empty, they knew. They're not stupid people. They have their experts who are going to look at the forecast and to see what the potential is for the market. But also they knew that the planes will have the impact currently, because they're coming in they're hoping to fill the plane, but they're coming in with not the intention to fill the plane, but they're coming in with the intention to have what is called route development. And that is building out a route so that, you've locked in this route. Right. There's no other airline that is, when you do eventually add the rooms now, the Marriott and the beaches, there's no other airline that is going to try to come into this route because I've already developed this.
Yeah, they've positioned themselves.
That's the point. Yeah.
A football reference. The former coach for the US team, she said, you have to put yourself in position to take possession.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing, basically.
And a perfect example of that is Miami with American Airlines.
Yes.
When the Miami leg for American Airlines, the negotiations there to have the A traveled from Miami, they came in so aggressive that at one point they had daily flights, and the numbers were not saying, well, potentially they can full the plane every day.
Right.
But what they were signaling to the rest of the aviation industry is, listen, if you're going to come to Miami to operate, you better come good, because this is our turf. This is our this is our hub. And we are taking this hub and we're expanding it to St. Vincent. No other airline can come into this hub. So the push to have daily flights out of Miami was not even based on demand.
Right.
It was a signal to the aviation industry that we are locking this. This is our turf. And we're doing route development. Don't ever think about even coming to Miami to operate to the Caribbean.
You remember after a while, sometimes if we have meetings to attend and, the staff, they're trying to find bookings, sometimes we're being told, oh, well, this flight is full, that flight is full. Or if we manage to get on, when you get on the plane, it's a full flight.
Yeah.
So I was always happy to see that.
Yeah. So those are how you move into discussions with negotiating. So Delta never expected to have one full flight of Vincentians coming from Atlanta, because, and I heard the comments, oh, Vincentian not living there, why did they decide to go to... It was always about route development. It was always about the projections. It was always about the potential of the market, the support that you give now, but what the likely effect will be during the period of Sandals expansion, the Marriott, and of course beaches.
Yeah.
That is how an airlines position themselves for future sales, and the projections based on building out both route planning and route development are very key components to how they operate in relation to that.
And if I could just say, in relation to the diaspora, you've said it, people are saying, oh, well, we don't have nobody there, and that is definitely not true. We do have a diaspora grouping in Atlanta, and I could tell you this for a fact. After the eruption of La Soufre Carlos, as foreign minister, I had to interface with a lot of the diaspora groups who were reaching out to our respective ambassadors and consul general to assist us in our response to the volcanic eruptions. And there is a group in Atlanta who they were putting together items to ship to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I know that the last president, I won't call her name because I'm not sure if she's still the sitting president of the group, but we do have Vincentians in Atlanta. But as you said, it's a wider issue. But I think sometimes when people speak, they speak without the requisite knowledge and the requisite facts. And that's why I always make the joke when we start on mornings to all the Vincentians scattered all over the world, because if you look hard enough, you will find pockets of Vincentians everywhere. And there is a diaspora group in Atlanta as we speak.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they were happy with the flight, that they could get a direct flight.
Yeah, a lot of people I know who are in Atlanta. And I was like, hitting me up. I said, well, I didn't realize you were in Atlanta. I said,
a lot of Vincentians.
But as I said, it's really, the decision is not even based on that. And the airlines will not tell you. They will not come and be quite frank and say, it is reason A or B why we did this. They will give a very generic, more polished PR response to why they will pull out. But it's always about the backroom discussions and the decisions that they make. And if they're not comfortable and confident in the product and what the potential of the product is, in terms of route development and route planning, they will know by now that we haven't started the Marriott Hotel. They will know by now that Beaches has not started construction. And these are some of the things that they will put into consideration.
Yeah.
They will tell you, oh, no, we don't, that's not our focus. But of course, let's be real. They look at route planning and route development and the potential of the market. And these are some of the key reasons why they decide to come to a destination. And I'm telling you because I've been in the room and I've had these discussions with airlines and I've been at the negotiating table. You don't sell a destination based on your current room stock. You sell a destination on your potential to add to your room stock. And that is what they're interested in. They're not interested in the now. Because if they're interested in the now, they would have been here since the year 2020.
Yeah.
What they're interested in is in the next 48 months, the next 4 years, the next 5 years, where is your tourism product likely to go in terms of growth, and who are the players coming in, what are the branded hotels, what is the market support that is likely to be pumped into that area, and that is how they make decisions in terms of route planning and route development. I'm being quite frank with it.
Yeah, and as business people, they will be looking at the climate. And I'm not talking about geography now. I'm talking about they'll be looking at the climate in the country, whether it be political, social. And this is why we've stressed the danger of this new government and the uncertainty that comes along with them in the way they approach their work. You don't know sometimes whether they are coming, whether they are going. And investors are looking at that.
Yeah.
Other commercial entities are looking at that. So we were set to start these hotels. Beaches, the groundbreaking would have already taken place. Construction would have already started. Marriott, it would have started. And now those things are up in the air, and we are not sure what the plan is. And I guess with the new CEO of the Tourism Authority installed now, hopefully we will get some information soon in terms of their roadmap and how they intend to address this situation and other situations which may pop up as a result of the uncertainty that the new government has caused.
And I really and genuinely am wishing our tourism professionals the best, because, I mean, as I said, it's our country. We live here. We want to see the best for tourism. We want to see the best for the economy. We want to see growth, and we want to see more people coming to our islands. So, we want to see them succeed. But it's unfortunate now that it is what is called a drag on the economy that is taking place, and that is also having the implications on our tourism sector. I would tell you that there's some negotiations which you never make, you were never able to put out there and to make them public at the time. But we were very much on the very tipping point of securing another additional airline coming out of Toronto.
Wow.
So by 2026, 2027, you were expected to see at least one additional airline coming from Canada to St. Vincent. And the intention there as well was to also add another airline coming out of the U.S. to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So, in fact, I'd already started reviewing the draft of the contractual arrangements with that particular airline to come out of the U.S. We're already in discussions, preliminary discussions, and of course, by the year 2027, we were expecting and anticipating to have, as I said, at least one more carrier in addition to Delta coming out of the US, and one more carrier in addition to the current Air Canada that is flying to St. Vincent from Toronto coming out of Canada. Those are discussions which I know right now, because I'm not that we're having discussions outside of the government with airlines, but from time to time you develop very good relationships with people professionals in the industry, and that is why I was able to know that industry professionals in the region were consulted by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, seeking their help us get more airlines. But you don't need to go out the market to find people to help you get airlines when there were negotiations already ongoing with discussions with airlines that you just have to tap into.
Yeah.
And professionals who are in the region were reaching out to me to say, well, I was approached by your minister in St. Vincent, and what do you think we should? I said, well, look, listen, I want the best for my country. So I am very much still very active in this space. There are people who communicate with me in this space. And as I said earlier, there are airlines who are concerned with the relationship there's not a great level of dialogue and communication with the VPs and the senior persons within the airline industry. And the government and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and that is also one of the potential things which may have implications for the aviation industry going forward. So we have to look at how we build relationships and relationships that exist currently, that we don't distance ourselves from the people at the negotiating table. There's always that continuous discussion on how we can grow the industry, how we can get more people in and more flights. And that has to be a continuous dialogue. It's not just, we have secured the airline and let's move on to another project. No, you have to ensure that you drive traffic and work in tandem and in collaboration with the airline industry. And their experts in the field will tell you that this thing is a daily exercise. It's a continuous period of discussion surrounding how you can grow the market and grow the Caribbean, and not just for St. Vincent, but grow the Caribbean market. And it's unfortunate to see the developments that are taking place. I'm hoping that the two additional airlines, which were earmarked to come to St. Vincent, both from Canada and also from the US, that they still are able to come. And but the news of not breaking ground as yet on the Marriott and not breaking ground on the Beaches Hotel is also a significant contributing factor as to whether or not an airline who is doing route planning and route development will give consideration to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's a significant part of the arrangement in when an airline makes a decision to come to your destination.
Yeah. So that's where we are, and I hope that clarifies a lot of the questions, where persons would say, it's based on fuel prices, and it's because the planes are not full. In coming to a destination, they have already done the math. They know exactly if the fuel prices are going to go to a certain amount, what the implication of that is going to be. That is already something that they've discussed before in terms of route planning and knowing exactly what they're going to do. In terms of the capacity on the planes, they have already done their homework and knew what the traffic was going to be before even flying. So the decision is never about traffic. It's never about whether the plane is full at this stage. It's always about route development, route planning, and they will run that plane until they're able to pretty much carve out that niche. American Airlines did it from Miami. You run that route, that is your route. It's called route development and planning. And then they came in on the intention of always ensuring that there's access to the destination from this particular location. Based on the projections which we have, you're going to add rooms, you're going to add more hotels. ABC is going to take place by month 36 or month 48. So we're coming in now, developing the route on the basis of that. And that's how airlines make their determination and they negotiate their way to get into a destination. And there's a lot more behind the scenes in relation to those things. But in layman terms, that's basically the nuts and bolts as to how you negotiate and how you picture your destination as a destination to travel to in terms of the airlines. Yeah. So from aviation to what we going to next? Cost of living?
Yeah.
Yeah?
well, that is where it is.
So
we could talk a bit about what the economy is right now and the carnival period and what's happening. Because have you been talking to people on the ground about
I have,
the carnival season and the spending power they have? And,
I have,
and then all of that. And we don't want to come here and song like
doom and
gloom and we're the Grinch of carnival. Look, I want people to have a really good carnival. I want the best for the country. It's our country. And we want the best, but we have to be real with the unrealistic with the reality out there and what is happening. And there are people, Keisal, who would tell you, my brother, I can't even go to some of these shows I see they have. The prices are so on and so on. And I say, well, no, we have to support the culture, man. And there are persons who will tell you, well, Before, I used to buy X amount of tickets and buy X amount of drinks. Now I just have to buy a quarter or pity and put it in my back pocket and chase it with a zest cola because you have to last me for the night. And one man jokingly told me, I changed that quart so much, I carry it home and bring it back the next day because I had to save. That quart they're going to last me about 2 days. And that's the reality.
Wow.
But I'm happy to see a lot of incentives coming home.
Yes.
It is going to add value to the product, the spending power. One lady, I was listening to a lady online making the point when she said, the foreigners were coming in and Vincentians were coming in. We don't want to call Vincentians in the diaspora foreigners. They're Vincies. A lot of them, they've already booked their tickets for shows online. Some of the shows are put on by people who are not Vincentians. So the money is going back out.
Yeah.
And a lot of them come in with their hair already done, their nails already done. They've bought their outfits already, and there's not a lot of this circulation, and a lot of them don't walk with cash because everything is online.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. There are 2 visitors who I know very well went to an event just on the weekend, and they were prepared to leave the venue. And when I inquired, I said, but why are you leaving the venue? They asked, can we organize to get a lift back or get a taxi? I said, but why are you leaving? I said, well, we can't buy the ticket online and they're not accepting cards. I said, but you have to walk with cash. A lot of people are going around, they're not spending cash because everything is done. They're accustomed to the remote access to things. And so the young lady who was making the point online was actually not far off and more spot on with her analysis because a lot of even the spending, unlike some of the other islands where even down to the vendors would have a card machine, what do you call a cardless, one of those portable card machines. So people don't even use cash, and when they come here, they don't use cash. They don't go to the ATMs either.
No.
So if you don't, it's not a location where they can access services via using a card machine or remote access, or where you can do a peer-to-peer, whatever the case will be. They're not gonna. Some of them are not going to spend. So while we may say yes, a lot of visitors are coming and a lot of persons are returning home to contribute to the economy, you have to also look at where the spending is going, and if it is trickling down to the vendor on the street, the snow cone man, the lady who's selling under the corridor there by Building and Loan, or somebody up by a tuck shop, or the barbecue man up the road, and that's where we need the money to trickle down to. We need to get it in the hands of the working people. So, and the person who was online making the point was quite correct, where she was encouraging persons, if you come to St. Vincent, get your hair done in St. Vincent, get your nails done in St. Vincent, buy the outfit from the local designers, contact them online, get your size and so on, and you send your measurements so that they can design for you. So when you come, you're leaving your money in the economy. You're leaving, not going to H&M and Macy's, and then you come here and you're not able, and Zara. So, and she was making a very valid point. So the small business operators, not me saying it, it was coming from an analysis from a small business, an entrepreneur, a small business operator, who was saying, while the carnival activity, there's a lot of music, a lot of traffic and so on, a lot of rentals and so, but the trickle down effect to the small man, the small business operator, is just not there, and they're making that analysis. So it's I'm hoping that over this weekend we're going to see a lot more activity, a lot more spending and so on, and we can only hope that persons are able to contribute to the economy, because the carnival period, in fact, a lot of people make an income. The ice vendor, those doing the as I said, the food on the road and so on, and make sure you have your health certificate when you're doing this. The taxis, the security personnel, the deco personnel at the venues for the events and so on. So there's a lot of informal persons who are able to benefit. But when you hear small business operators saying that they're not seeing the trickle-down effect. They're not seeing the monies coming to them. And most of the purchasing, they are done online. And most of the persons who are putting on the events, some of them are actually persons who are living overseas. And the entertainers they're bringing are persons who are coming from overseas. Even the artists, the local artisans are making that point.
I was gonna raise that.
There are not enough bookings
for the local
for the locals as well. Because and not that there's nothing wrong with having a bungee and a fan and a destra and all the other and a voice. I mean, I love these artists and I want Vincentians, our production persons, DJs and artists and so on to go out there and make money regionally and international as well. So it's not to knock persons who come in to make a living. And let's hoping that they pay their withholding tax. But it's not to knock those persons, but it's to say that I've heard from the various local acts that they're not seeing a lot more bookings as they did in previous years as well. Mm-hmm. So all around we're having that fall off during the season. I would tell you, even the mass men who are working really hard, and the mass men and women in the mass tents, they're working relentlessly to ensure that they put on their productions. But they themselves are seeing a very a downturn in sales, and in some of the productions they have to tighten their productions because of that. It's one of those things where there's a broader lull on the economy, a drag on the economy. It's having its impact and implication. Though you may see a lot of crowds at venues, it doesn't necessarily mean that a lot of those persons are actually spending. As I gave you the joke with the guys now with the pity bottle and the quart of Sunset and Campari, how the chinks in it whole night, and some of them carry it home and bring it back, and they have the camel pack. And they mix their juice at home with the rum punches and the Sunset and so on in the camel packs, and they carry it out on the road. So it's not that they're buying.
Bring your own drinks.
Yes, it's not that they're buying from the vendors on the streets. So that is one of the things that we're seeing, and all of that is not just a trend, but it is a necessary practice, because the spending power is just not there to drive sales to the ordinary working people and those who are part of the festival.
I saw complaints from the vendors as well in Kingstown, because Independence Park, Victoria Park, I don't know whether the new government has gone back to Victoria, so Independence Park, but it has been Carnival City. And a lot of the activities, at least when I was growing up, I didn't attend carnival shows per se, but as I've mentioned, you will see and you will observe that a lot of the activities used to be in and around Kingstown in that sense. But a lot of the vendors, they are complaining, especially the ones in Kingstown, that they are not getting that sort of traffic unless there's a major, so maybe Carnival Monday and Tuesday, when a lot of people are on the streets of Kingstown, is where they may see that spending going up by patrons. But in the days leading up, so like from this week, unless something is happening in Kingstown, they are not getting that sort of patronage at their various stalls or bars. But as you said, I do hope it gets better. I think going forward, though, as a country, we should have a bigger conversation about Carnival and what it means to us in terms of the cultural aspects, the entertainment aspects, because there are also some Vincentians who feel that they are being outpriced. They can't afford some of the things that now make up Carnival. They can't afford certain things. So they feel as if, well, right now Carnival is for foreigners or foreign-based persons and not for Vincentians themselves to enjoy. And as I said, that is a conversation that would have to take place going down the road, because if if the way the economy is now, where Vincentians who are here are finding it difficult to stretch the dollar to enjoy the 10 days of jumping up, and you know, we have to address it at some point. And you know, for what it's worth, I do wish all of the masqueraders, all of the entertainers, the artists, everybody, all the people who are going to be taking part in the various activities in the coming days, I wish you all the best. I know Soca Monarch is a highly anticipated one. I hope that goes well. I saw the little kids on Saturday. I like the use of the colors, and you know, a lot of the costumes are looking very nice, and from some of the videos I saw, the kids were enjoying themselves. You know, sometimes I say, boy, it's time you go back and just be a kid again, because you're so carefree. You're not studying all that stress. You're just enjoying yourself. But you know, I was happy to see the little ones out and about and having fun. But yeah, I mean, Carnival is ours, and we want to see the best for it going forward. And
and you know, one of the things which I want to commend all of our hosts and in particular our leadership of the party, we don't pull down. In fact, we get licks from our own supporters for complimenting and offering suggestions and recommendations to the government, because it's not a station of pulling down and defamation of character. What we do is we're here to educate and inform and to uplift, and we put the information out to people, and even their suggestions, because of our expertise and experiences being in government, having a broader appreciation of how things should go, and we highlight them, and it is for the benefit of people to listen and to say, well, listen, these guys know what they're saying. They've been there. They've been tried and tested. And the leadership of the party and Comrade Ralph and so on, you would hear the many suggestions and recommendations you'll make on his Morning Comrade program. And that is because all of us, we are nationalists at heart. We want to see the best for our country. Yeah. We're not just here to oppose, but to ensure that people understand and appreciate that there are solutions to things that the NDP has not yet figured out. They are still finding their way. I understand even in meetings at the OECS level and CARICOM level, the first thing the current Prime Minister would say, well, you know, I'm new on the block and I'm still on the learning curve. These are the words that he would use. And when you move into that seat, sit into that seat as Prime Minister of a country, you have to show your competence. You have to show your leadership acumen, your astuteness politically, and your readiness to take on the leadership of a country. And as a regionalist, and your leadership as a regional leader as well in the variant groupings of CARICOM and the OECS. But every meeting, I understand, I mean, because, you know, we are still close with ministers and prime ministers within the region, and they do from time to time speak. And I'm not going to disclose and say who said what and when, but you know, you would hear the excuses from the minister and the ministers and also the prime minister from saying, we're new to this thing and we're still on the learning curve, and I mean, what you have had 20 years in opposition to prepare for this thing, and leadership is something that you have to prepare yourself for. Yeah. And when you're given the opportunity to serve, you're there, ready, willing, and able, and most importantly, competent in service. And you know, it's really concerning that St. Vincent right now is from all indications, we are pretty much, quote unquote, the entire country is on the learning curve in terms of its leadership. Yeah. And because of that, we are what you call in safe mode. It's like a fail safe. Yeah. We're just operating with a co-pilot. Yeah. Until they're able to find their way and understand how things work, you know, the operation of how things work within governance and regional and domestically as well. But it's safe to say that we are in fail safe right now, and it's a autopilot kind of operation that is taking place.
As you mentioned, the country as well, we are on a learning curve, and the citizens, because sometimes I see some of the comments now that the New Democratic Party is in office, and I said, but where was this line of thinking when ULP was there? I mean, naturally, people are biased towards the party they support, but you can't be so biased that you depart from common sense, but it's just amazing. Even procedures, and as you said, matters concerning governance, things in parliament, procedures in parliament, and clearly, and I made the point here before, that a lot of people never once looked at parliament. For all the years we started streaming parliament live, and with social media now, many of them never looked at parliament to see procedure, to understand some of the points that we may be raising here on the program, that when we were there. No, we don't expect everything to be the same, but there are certain procedures and certain practices that, look, you can give a little way because of our country, our culture in terms of parliament and politics and so on. But it's just, I am realizing a lot of Vincentians did not pay attention prior to the NDP taking office. And now everybody is tuned in. So I saw somebody getting agitated that, everything is Friday. Everything Aliwa blame Friday. And, somebody shared it as, I just found it funny, considering, I'm paraphrasing now, that for the last 25 years, everything was Ralph. You blame Ralph for everything. And then the person said cheekily at the end, well, you know what? I would advise you to ask Ralph. Because if rain came, it was Ralph's fault.
Sun too hot.
Sun too hot, Ralph fault. You stump your toe, Ralph fault. I mean, it was just ridiculous. So now people are understanding, and I'm seeing people now being astute and saying, listen, the global turmoil that we have, is causing all of these spill-off effects. That's what we've been saying.
Yes.
I could say at least that's what I was saying for the last 5 years.
And not just the global turmoil, but what we have dealt with from climatic shocks locally.
Well, this is it. This is it. And we have a bill. There's a bill coming up in Parliament Thursday. Well, I assume they'll proceed with it.
It goes through all the stages,
Yeah, if it goes through all the stages, where we'll be speaking about disaster risk management. And, a lot of it is from the work we had done to prepare and recognizing our vulnerabilities. And now people appreciate that, yes, we are vulnerable, and yes, the money that we could otherwise use for capital projects and for development of the country, we have to use it to respond to natural disasters and climatic shocks. So I am happy that there is another wave of enlightenment that is taking place, that reality is hitting a lot of Vincentians about how the world actually works. Because for a long time, I was questioning whether we were in our own world, and people used to joke and say St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a special place because it's like we live in our own little bubble. But people are now understanding what is happening, how global matters affect us locally, and we have to ready ourselves, and we have to be in a position to respond and cushion the blow for our nationals, for Vincentians. And right now, at the snail pace that the new government is moving, because the apologists will say, they just go there. But listen, some of these fellas have been parliamentarians for years. The current Prime Minister has been a parliamentarian since 2001. But
that's 2 decades.
Comrade Leader always speaks about whether or not someone has the requisite curiosity. And it is clear that a lot of the persons on the government side did not possess the requisite curiosity to understand how things work. Otherwise, they should have directed a lot of their supporters that, look, a lot of these things is not the government of the default. But now people are realizing that. And I'm happy that we are all catching up and we are now all on the same page with these issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want us to move into, because we're talking about the economy and how things are not, as smooth as they usually would be in terms of the trickle-down effect and the benefit to the working people on the ground and so on, the small business operators. They're the ones complaining. It's not us who are saying this and making the excuses and so on. But I want us to go to the issue of the subsidies that were put forward by the current Prime Minister as it relates to the cost of living crisis. In fact, one of the things which he said in establishing a task force to deal with the cost of living crisis was that they have announced that they're going to put a cap both on fuel at the pump and also a cap on the fuel surcharge as it relates to the electricity that comes to many of our homes and businesses across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But I want us to take a listen to Lorraine Friday in announcing some of the measures as it relates to the subsidy. We have been loading. Yes.
And we don't want to get bogged down with distractions. Should do that. And we have some very good ideas. We have some very good partners.
No,
so I'm excited about it.
one with him
But it takes a little
announcing
time.
the fuel.
And we don't want to get bogged down with distractions.
The concessionary, the cap on fuel.
Point of the matter is,
Well, you suddenly created your own distraction.
And while you're getting that, and it was you have it, yes.
there are the two that I know you're talking about. These are the ones that you've heard comments about in the public media and so forth. The constitutional.
While we're trying to find that, I think yes, that's.
Deserve more than a government that simply watches global inflation crush household budgets. Therefore, effective immediately, we are implementing a 3-month intervention measure to suppress the effects of high fuel prices by, one, reducing excise tax, and also by reducing the customs service charge by 50% on imported petroleum products. What does this mean in practical terms? Instead of gasoline reaching nearly $19 per gallon, the intervention will hold the price to approximately $16.92 per gallon. Instead of diesel climbing to almost $17.71, the intervention keeps the price at $16.26 per gallon. And instead of low sulfur diesel rising to $17.85, the adjusted price will be $16.40. Those reductions represent real savings for ordinary people.
Right. So you heard that comment, and I don't think
without intervention,
the cap
St. Vincent and the Grenadines would have become one of the most.
It didn't finish.
Let's hear the other part of it.
Most expensive Eastern Caribbean countries for fuel. Now, because of the intervention, it keeps gasoline prices at $16.92 and diesel at $16.26. We are among the lowest in the OECS region. Now that matters because it eases the burden of adjustment for our people.
Right. So you heard the current Prime Minister and his pronouncement. That was the biggest part of his, economic solution in terms of subsidizing the cost of fuel at the pump for commuters and operators, taxi and public transportation, and even the walking people traveling and so on, and people who own vehicles. We were all surprised that just a few weeks out from making that big grand announcement, that the very cabinet in which he serves as the chair went into a cabinet deliberation and agreed to pass on the cost of the fuel increase to Vincentians. Because I didn't understand and appreciate. Well, if you're putting a cap, it means that there's a malus system that is in place, the 3-month average, the roll-on average system that is in place, where we have storage of fuel up to 3 months. And the price on which you purchase on the market at this period, you have to pass that on to the stakeholders and Vincentians. If it is that in the next 3 months the price gets lower, then the price that you have in storage doesn't automatically reduce, because you have to still pass on that cost, that the purchasing of what you purchase the fuel for at the time of purchasing. So we said, okay, well, this is an interesting measure, and how much is this going to cost the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines? Because essentially you will be owing your fuel suppliers if you were to put a cap based on the fact that you don't know what the likely cost is going to be.
Right.
In the next 3 months. You don't know at what rate the state is going to have to purchase fuel at, and so on. Then we saw a cabinet decision. The very cabinet that he sits in his chair, after making that announcement, he came back to the people, not to give a press statement and say, well, initially I had mentioned that we're going to put a cap, but these are the reasons why we're not able to put a cap on the fuel because of A, B, C, D. No. He went into a cabinet meeting, made the conscious decision that I'm going to pass on that price, notwithstanding making a public pronouncement that I'm putting a cap on the fuel. And as Comrade Ralph alluded to yesterday on the program, there also seems to be a crossing of wires between VINLEC and the government. Because also...
Pun intended.
Yeah, I like the lines across.
Pun intended.
Because here it is. You are suggesting that VINLEC is going to absorb a lot of the cost in terms of the surcharge and the additional rate and so on. You said the government is also going to take that measure. But I think we have a recording there of Vaughan. We have Dr. Lewis, who is the who's at VINLEC, the current chair at VINLEC. CEO at VINLEC.
CEO.
Yes, who is making that deliberation as to how it is that they're not able to pass on some of these costs. Let us hear CEO. While we cue that tape, it's important for us to listen to what the professionals are saying, and this is his explanation.
I'm not saying this to scare people, but the cost of the fuel that we have in stock now it's higher, much higher than we are projecting for this year. So we are likely to see an elevated fuel surcharge for, I would say, at least another 2 months. And as we are all hopeful that we will have a reduction in the cost of the market price for diesel in the upcoming months.
So you're saying that we will pay a little bit more for the next 2 months or so at the cashiers?
I don't know if to say a little bit more. Unfortunately, I can't predict that. I hope it is a little bit more, but some of the prices that we are seeing from our fuel suppliers, It could be it could be another record-breaking month in July.
Wow.
They have provided a waiver on the customs service charge. The customs service charge on fuel is, I think, it's 6%. So they have taken a waiver there, but they have asked VIDNEC to also contribute by providing a subsidy when the fuel surcharge reaches a certain point that is tied to the customs service charge. So they have already given a 6% waiver on the fuel surcharge, on the cost of fuel, which positively impacts the fuel surcharge. Now, when the fuel surcharge exceeds the targets they have given us, or they have given us a 71 cents and a 77 cents point, a reference point. So if we exceed, the fuel surcharge is exceeding 71 cents, we are required to give a subsidy of 50% of the cost, the customs service charge cost.
Right.
So that's equivalent to a 3% on the fuel. If it exceeds, the fuel surcharge exceeds 77 cents, we are then required to give, for the next 3 months, 100% subsidy equivalent to the value of customs service charge.
Yeah. So there are two important points here, Keisal. One is that the CEO of VINLEC is saying, listen, I can't predict the future. I'm going to tell you, I can't tell you what is going to happen following the 3-month
Right.
purchase. But we can say to you that you're going to expect high prices in terms of your electricity supply. Did say that, based on what they've purchased already and what they have in storage.
Right.
So we know that for the month of July, persons can brace themselves for another hike in their electricity bills. That is what we know. So all of this big announcement about a task force and coming up with the suggested recommendations to the cost of living crisis by Dr. Friday, clearly, none of them they're working. None of the more important strategic interventions, quote unquote, that he implemented and unannounced are actually currently, as we speak, working. There's no cap on fuel, and your electricity in July is going to be very, very high. That is what you heard. You heard it here from Dr. Lewis, who was the CEO of VINLEC. And clearly, it means that there are really no measures at all from this cost of living task force.
Yeah.
Absolutely no measures were implemented. There was an announcement on the measures. But in practical terms, we are not seeing those measures benefiting the working people, benefiting Vincentians. And what is even more interesting is that how can the very cabinet go into deliberation and approve an increase, because for there to be an increase in fuel at the pump, that has to go to the folks at Consumer Affairs and so on, and it has to be gazetted. But the decision has to come from the cabinet of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And just about 2-3 weeks ago, you made an announcement. You're capping fuel. Once it goes past this amount, you don't have the government would absorb the cost of it. And then you go back into a cabinet meeting, deliberated and consciously made the decision that, we can't afford this thing, we have to pass this on to consumers, we have to pass this on to Vincentians. We did promise to cap it, but we can't cap it. And gazetted those increases. But you didn't have the decency to come back to the public and say, look, listen, my intention was to do this. I'm unable to do it for these various reasons. And clearly it shows, it goes to the issue of his credibility. That what they say, and we've proven that over time, because they promised to give civil servants a double salary following the elections.
Didn't happen.
Didn't happen. There were some payments made, but we know that majority of persons, and in fact, persons confirmed they got a 500 or 800, maybe a 1,200 there, but by and large, 200 or 500 or $600 instead of that double bubble. They promised to cut VAT from 16% by 3 percentage points, which every economist know. The shock waves that would have created in the economy. It was impossible to do. And you gradually, even if you're going to reduce VAT, you gradually do it over time. But it would have created such an unevenness in your revenue collections for the state. The shortfall and the gaps that were going to be there. You would not have been able to pay salaries. While the ULP did in fact say to civil servants, we are going to increase your salary for the year 2026 because we were projecting the cost of living. We know what was going to come. And bam, we didn't see a double salary. We didn't see the cut by 3 percentage points in VAT. What else they promised that didn't happen? The teachers who were supposed to benefit from their full salary from being away from the classrooms are still waiting. Yeah? And there are a number of things which they outlined that we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And recent, as I said, a cap on fuel at the pump, a cap on your electricity. Here it is, you have the CEO of VINLEG telling you, you heard it here for yourself. Here, brace yourself for July. You go to the pump right now, you're not paying $16. How much it is? What is the rate there? The cap?
$16.92 for gas and $16.25.
You're not paying that
for diesel.
You're paying well beyond $17 and $18.
Yeah, almost $20. Well, I count it as 20.
Yeah. So let us be real about this thing, and we have to assess the credibility of Lorraine Friday and the promises of the NDP. And there are persons who are quite rightly saying, well, this is a master stroke from the playbook of the great Nancy, which is Sir James. And right now he's giving Sir James the rod. There's a competition right now between who could tell the most lies historically between Sir James as Prime Minister and currently Dr. Lydie. And that is the reality of what it is. And I don't know if Vincentians can trust this government. To follow through on the promises that they made, those election promises, and the statements that they made, even in government, national statements to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
So, as it stands right now, Carla, so let's put things into perspective. We suggested a task force. They adhered to our suggestion and they created one.
I just thought he heard about it and said, well, that's a good idea, man. Let me try it.
Right. And then we had to wait weeks to hear what the task force was going to put forward to the people, having met. And as it stands right now, the cost of living interventions, if I may call them that, recommended by the task force or decided, whatever, they are non-existent.
And they're not being honored by the current government.
So
who recommended them?
We, the Vincentian people, right now, they have no cost of living intervention at present. Because what was announced in the press conference, it was in front complex.
Yeah.
With applause and fanfare. They've now stepped back from that, and we are left to bear the cost. So there is currently, am I wrong in saying that there's currently no cost of living intervention from that task force that is operating the way it was promised?
And what the additional measures that they have introduced are things which, for instance, on fertilizer, 30% off on fertilizer. Listen, under Labour, every farmer get fertilizer.
Free.
So you're still saying to them they have to pay. But you know, expensive even the 30% off does not cover the savings there, does not cover the actual increase that we have seen in fertilizer over the last few months. But when we went to the people and the farmers, we didn't say, well, come and pay half or 30%, and get the fertilizer. We said, listen, we are bringing the fertilizer to your farms and to your homes and to your doors. Heighten and increase production. We are providing the fertilizers for you. We had tons of fertilizer coming through from Morocco.
Yeah.
And again, it speaks to, is it like you're playing dolly house? Because clearly, if you are an astute leader with vision and you have a strong foreign policy agenda, and you have what I would say the right frame of mind and thinking, you will be out there having discussion. Right now, you'll be on the plane. You'll be out there having discussions with Morocco and the Saudis and the OPEC Fund for Development and the World Bank and so on. How can we get more support to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but also largely not St. Vincent, but the Caribbean region? Because you'll be out there, and that is what Comrade Ralph used to do when he went out there. He wasn't just batting for St. Vincent. He was batting for the region.
Well, this is it, as a regionalist. And you know what is disappointing is that our Prime Minister was the chair of the OECS. And if you remember last week, when we were getting ready to close the program, somebody called and they were asking, well, Antigua's Gaston Brown, Prime Minister Brown, is now the chairman of the OECS. But what do we have to show for our Prime Minister as the outgoing chairman of the OECS authority? And what do we have to show? And this was his opportunity, rather than make the excuse and say, oh, well, I'm new, it's a learning curve. He should have taken the bull by the horns at a time where so much was happening, Carlos, regionally and internationally. He took the realm of leadership, not only in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but for the OECS, to speak for the OECS. And I don't know about you, but I was very disappointed. I do not know one achievement that we've had as the chair of OECS with all that was happening.
Yeah.
What have we achieved? And it goes back to the question I had asked about what were his strategic priorities going in as the chair of the OECS. And my question was disallowed. But now it comes back, and disallowing that question does not age well on the administration.
It was disallowed because there was no answer.
Well, this is the
That's
point.
the point. Yeah.
But the Prime Minister, I would think, is surrounded by civil servants who know their job, technical professionals, the OECS Secretariat. You and I, we've worked with them very closely when we chaired respective councils of the OECS. And there's a wealth of knowledge there. So with all that was happening, there needed to be more advocacy on behalf of the region. And we didn't get that.
I will tell you, throughout the region right now, and a lot of the colleagues I have who are still holding ministerial portfolios, and even leaders of countries, they would say to me, boy, the leadership of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in this particular area is missing, is lacking. We miss hearing Ralph. His leadership was sung on this particular subject matter. I got a message just a couple hours ago from someone who's a professional in tourism. He said, "Oh, you're missing and needed in tourism." And I said, "Well, that's the beauty of democracy.
Yeah,
I've moved past that, and now I'm practicing. I'm back at my law firm practicing, and it's not that we are tooting the horns of the cabinet, the former cabinet of the ULP and the leadership of the ULP, but we are outlining that when we went to a meeting And when you expected an intervention from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it was sound. It was an intervention that showed astuteness, quality in terms of leadership, and our clarity in position on
Yes.
several things
Yes.
of a regional, domestic, regional, international. And that is what St. Vincent and the Grenadines is lacking right now. What you get, and I'm hearing the stories, what you get is that, well, it's my first meeting here, and we are new to the government, and we're still on the learning curve. That's what you get at almost every meeting from both the leadership and ministers from St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
If I could,
That's what's repeated by other ministerial colleagues across the region.
if I could reflect a little here, Carlos, I remember shortly after being sworn in as Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we were chairing the Security Council of the United Nations. And Ambassador King at the time, she was in touch with me and she said, well, we have this meeting coming up. We had a meeting with the PS and you're expected to make certain interventions. You think I could have gone to announce to the whole UN Security Council that I was new and this is my first time?
Yeah.
Listen, I had to chair this meeting and you had heavy hitters. I don't know if you know Forrest Whitaker, the actor, and there were other celebrities who, I can't remember if we were speaking about security in terms of technology and advancements and so on, but there were lots of heavy hitters at this meeting. And Keisal from Little St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I had to sit in the chair and I had to chair, I had to make the necessary interventions. And well, clearly I did well because before the meeting was finished, the Prime Minister received messages from people in South Africa. Oh my God, your new minister is amazing. And, so you just have to be in position to take possession.
You're on the learning curve, Keisal.
No, you can't be.
You have to give them more time.
And this was a matter of maybe like a week, of going in. I had absolutely no time.
They're about what, 7 months in?
7 months in.
They need more time. They need more time to understand.
The apologists will say, oh, they need more time, give them time. But they will find themselves apologizing for 5 years.
Yeah.
If so much years.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I want us to open up the lines.
Yes.
And we're going to take some calls. Number to call is 534-7827.
Yes.
534-7827. Of course, that's the number to reach us here at 9. But I want us to go. There's an interesting development, Keisal, and the bills which are still on the order paper for Parliament. As we're wrapping up the program this morning, into afternoon, early afternoon, we want to remind Vincentians again that this constitutional amendment bill and the Representation of the People's Act amendment is still listed on the order paper for the Parliament. And we all know we've gone down this road, we've traversed this territory before, and we've said to you, the people, and you know that these bills are deliberately brought to circumvent a legal process that is ongoing right now in the court. In fact, in July, the end of July, we go to the court to have the evidence of the witnesses in the election, both election petition cases, interrogated. They're going to be cross-examined. The experts in Canadian citizenship are going to be there. They will. I believe they're flying to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I think initially the plan was to have them done remotely, but they may very well be here to give evidence in the matter before the court. It's a live matter that is before the court in July. In September, the 18th thereabout, there's a submission of written submissions to the court. In November, the 9th to the 13th thereabout, they are going to have the discussion on oral arguments from both sides, those lawyers representing the petitioners and those representing the respondents. So how, for the life of me, you're still having on every order paper for the sitting of the Parliament these constitutional amendment bills that goes to the root of a judicial matter that is currently before the court for interpretation? And we all know that they're there for self-serving purposes.
Yes.
To ensure that in the event that the court goes in favor of the petitioners, that we can retroactively go back in time and change the law to say, I am qualified. That is what these bills are, and I want Vincent
Back to the date of independence.
Yeah, 1979. Back to the constitutional order when it came into act. And I want Vincentians to really have an appreciation as to how the blatant abuse of political power and privilege, because you have a majority in the House and you can write and draft these bills and bring them to the Parliament, and hoping that Vincentian should just sit down and accept that you will circumvent the judicial process when there's a separation of powers. You will defy the authority of the court, because the court has that ambit under the petition jurisdiction to hear these matters and to make a deliberation on the interpretation of the law in relation to that. But you're going to fix the problem, resolve the problem before the court say, in fact, there's a problem. So I want us to listen to, there's a journalist, Callistra Farrell, which is I think the first one you had played, interviewing Lorraine outside of the Parliament at one of the sittings. I think the last sitting.
The last sitting. One of the few sittings we've had.
And we're month 6 into the year, and month 7
it's tomorrow
into the term of government, and we've only had 2 sittings there. Tomorrow's going to be the second sitting outside of the budget, the estimates and the budget, because you don't really consider those as normal sittings, because those are really sittings to deal with the estimates of revenue and expenditure.
Right.
So again, it goes back to the issue of a government that is not ready, doesn't have an aggressive developmental agenda, because if you have a great aggressive development agenda, your parliamentary agenda would also be robust and aggressive, because you have to have the bills that are going to match the things that you say you're going to do for the year. So let us hear what the Callistra is saying in the interview with Friday, and what Friday is explaining to her.
Down with distractions. The point of the matter is...
Well, you certainly created your own distraction, Prime Minister, by bringing those 2 bills.
And we have some very good ideas, we have some very good partners, so I'm excited about it. But it takes a little time. And we don't want to get bogged down with distractions. The point of the matter is...
Well, you certainly created your own distraction, Prime Minister, by bringing those 2 bills putting those 2 bills on the Parliament.
I brought 6 bills.
Well, you brought 6 bills, but 2 very controversial ones, which people have described as self-serving, given that you are one of the 2 people who are named
this
in the
is
petition.
going to clarify something later on, and so on. Let the court do the business, and then we will have this matter clear, so that you can't have sole rulers coming to the court and saying they don't want to turn over things and so forth. This matter is clear to me, it's clear to most people, it's clear to the jurists and so forth. We just want to make sure now that it's clear in the statute, and that will come in time. Okay?
Thank you, Prime Minister.
You're welcome.
So here you have a journalist from Grenada, not a Vincentian journalist, telling him, listen, people say this thing self-serving, and he's saying, well, you don't want people to come into the court, but you, in fact, you're circumventing the very, very, very legislative process and judicial process by bringing to the Parliament and having on the order paper still 2 bills that are actually going against what the greater concept that we have, and that allows us to exist and function in a democracy, called the separation of powers. The doctrine of the separation of powers, which means the judiciary, the Parliament cannot tamper with the judiciary and force them to interpret things or to say things in cases that are before them, that are currently being deliberated. The legislature, which is the Parliament, has a role to play, separate from the judiciary. The executive, which is the government, and the cabinet also has an executive role to play in relation to the implementation of policies and so on. The executive and the legislature cannot influence the decision of the judiciary. And to make it worse, you're going to go back to the Parliament to make an act, a bill, an amendment to an act retroactive so that you're tying the hands of the judicial process. So the judge who's hearing the matter will then say, listen, this thing now is retroactive, so even if I were to agree with the petitioners, I therefore now cannot agree with them, because this retroactive bill which was passed, and it's now an act of the parliament, says to me that I have to adhere to what the amendment to the Constitution says. And you're going to tamper with the Constitution without coming to the people. Usually these things are done by way of a referendum. You don't just, the Constitution of a country is not something you just tamper with willy-nilly. It's not just something you just tinkering and changes that you wake up 4 in the morning and decide, hey, let's shift the Constitution and change A and B. No. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. The Constitution is what governs this country. If you're aggrieved by the state, you can bring a judicial review process. You can bring a constitutional motion against the state. It is there for checks and balances. There are sections of the Constitution that speaks to inhuman treatment, the way in which persons are to be treated by the state, even if you're being arrested. And I want to just briefly mention there are 2 matters right now which we have written the Attorney General on, where we intend to take civil action against the state, where the police themselves have abused 2 persons. And one, you saw the video going viral with this young man, Kenton Harris. There's another one with a man shot 6, 7 to 8 times by the police. Nobody heard about it. That is what the Constitution is there to protect its citizens. The right to freedom of association and assembly. So therefore, churches like the Baptists and so on, back in the day when you had the Baptist ordinance, the spiritual Baptist ordinance, where you can't practice your religion and so on, were unconstitutional. The Constitution is there to serve the people, not the government, not cabinet members, not parliamentarians. It is there to serve the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And you can't just tinker with it and change it and shift it as you feel like and as you please, because it benefits you as a parliamentarian. It benefits you as a member of the executive. It's a blatant disregard to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Constitution of the country. And it's an abuse of the process. And these are some of the things which Vincentians, it's really troubling that there are Vincentians who sit down quietly and observe this thing and they don't bat an eyelid.
The apologists.
They don't bat an eyelid. But there are people in England who calling me. There are lawyers constitutional lawyers in England across the region who are calling. What is this thing going on? How could that even be possible in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? How could that be even possible in a country that values the Westminster system and model and values democracy? This is unheard of. Yeah. There are lawyers and serious constitutional experts who have reached out and said, this is unprecedented. These are the words coming from them.
Yeah.
Never before has something like this ever happened where there's a live matter before the court, and the very issue that has to be deliberated on and interpreted by the court is in fact now being circumvented using the avenue of going to the parliament to retroactively insert into law pretty much a final outcome of the hearing before the hearing takes place.
And let me just say this, right? I spoke last week about many members of the NDP being disingenuous, and a lot of their supporters as well. If you scour the NDP manifesto that they had recalled about twice, they posted it, they took it down, they posted it again. I think they took it down and posted it. I don't even know which version I have, but what I have, there is no mention of constitutional reform. I repeat, there is no mention of constitutional reform by the NDP. Their minds were not even there on that issue because they felt that it's a non-issue of the 2 members having dual citizenship. compared to the ULP, where before we came into office in 2001, Comrade Ralph was already laying in the consciousness of Vincentians that we need to look towards constitutional reform. And he went about it in the proper way, the honorable way, the dignified way of taking it to the people. Now, I saw a question in the comments asking whether the amendments that they're proposing would require a referendum, and I think we've spoken about that before. There are certain sections of the Constitution that require a referendum. There are some that do not require a referendum. But just because in this instance these amendments do not require a referendum, it doesn't mean that you don't take it to the people still, because the proposed amendments will affect Vincentians in the diaspora who are not necessarily dual citizens of another Commonwealth country. So what of them? It's a very broad discussion that we need to have as Vincentians on this issue. So you know for sure that nowhere in their contemplation NDP had any scintilla of evidence that they've put forward that they wanted constitutional reform. The constitutional reform that they are embarking on now is self-serving. It is convenient. It's not for clarity. It is for convenience. Let us call it for what it is. And it should all constitutional matters, because apart from these two bills and the issue of whether you are subject to a foreign power, there are other constitutional questions that came out of the referendum that the NDP told the people to vote no for. There are other things that Vincentians may want to revisit.
Yeah.
So, for instance, we were proposing term limits. And they told people don't vote for that, but then you complain. Privy Council, to remove the Privy Council as our final appellate court. But now you're complaining, Labour was there too long. Well, I guess that one is, you no longer have that complaint. But in other things, I think for constitutional reform, there needs to be a national discussion. And as I said, I know there are people who have buyer's remorse who would want to revisit some of the proposed amendments that were put forward by the Unity Labour Party and all who supported the reform process. So it's not just about you. And this is the evidence that the proposed amendments are self-serving, Carlos. Because it's a wider discussion. The Constitution is our document.
Yeah. And that's the important point.
It is our document, not for your pleasure to nickel and dime and tweak it as you please.
You made the point about persons who are in the diaspora whom you want to contest, but while largely that is also a significant consideration, you have to look at the fact that it is a constitutional amendment that touches and concerns every Vincentian, whether you want to be a candidate or not. Because you are a voter.
Yes.
And you are living in a country.
Yes.
That a constitution governs you. We are governed by the Constitution. We are protected by the Constitution. So when you're going to touch this Constitution here, which is the supreme law of the land, there ought to be a greater level of consideration and consultation with the people. And notwithstanding, certain parts of it you can change by way of a 2/3 majority in the House. You have to go to the people. That's the point Keisal is making. You have to go to the people, because the nature of what it is a bill to amend the highest office in the land, the highest act, which is the Constitution out of 1979. And it is important for us to give serious weight and consideration to any amendment whatsoever, regardless of whether it's in relation to the right to disqualification or qualification to contest an election. Any part of the Constitution it must be put to the people in a responsible manner. And it shows the lack of respect.
Lack of
that
respect.
Morena has for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And that in itself, his credibility in making promises which he can't fulfill and pretty much go back on, his abuse of the court's process, whereby you're bringing a bill to amend the constitution to circumvent the decision of the court or to tie the hands of the court, and in fact an abuse of Vincentians by the mere fact that you will be so brazen to bring a bill to the parliament, keep it on the order paper, that you are going to amend the constitution of St. Vincent and Grenadines without having any broader input or discussion from the people of the country. And that to me is one of the fundamental. If Ralph had done that, the whole country would have been in uproar.
Listen, water couldn't wash
the
us.
hypocrisy of some of us as Vincentians. I mean, we sit quietly in observation without even raising our voices and say, well, listen, even if I'm a supporter of the NDP, I think you're gone a step too far, too early in your term. This is a level of boldness and braveness, Keisal, and recklessness.
No, and
that I've never seen from any government in this country.
It shows where their priorities are, because fresh off of the budget sessions, which, as you said, has to do more with the administrative work that has to be done to make sure we have monies to finance our projects and initiatives. So outside of that, the next time we come to Parliament in April was to bring bills, including those two controversial bills that are self-serving. That is the strategic priority of the current Prime Minister that we have. Clock it, as the young people does see.
Yeah.
And then the other issue with the minutes of the last sitting, which was 21st of April.
Yeah.
At the end of the session, well, coming down to the end, when the clerk read the Representation of the People Act, and the Prime Minister stood up and he basically said, well, we will not be proceeding with the bills today. We'll leave time for public discussion, a broad public discussion and whatnot. Nowhere in the minutes that we have received in our packages for Parliament was that exchange and what the Prime Minister said. And you're right. Things that make you say, You really have to say, So what he said at the end, and I think I have it. I think I have it here. What he said is nowhere in the minutes. Let me see if I could play it here.
Representation of the People Amendment Bill 2026.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have had a very long and productive day in this Honorable House. And we recognize that there are two items on the bill, on the order paper that are to be dealt with. Our position is, Madam Speaker, that these matters, they are important, broadly important to the public discourse. We are intending to address these matters, the amendment of the Representation of the People Act and the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in the way that we have put in the draft legislation. These are our proposals, Madam Speaker. We wish to have, of course, to have broad and wide discussion of it. And so we invite that sort of engagement. And therefore, Madam Speaker, this matter, we will not be proceeding any further now at this point until we have had these full responses from the public debate on these two very important matters. So as for now, Madam Speaker, I wish to move that this Honourable House do stand adjourned. Sanidai.
And what is interesting, is because of the public pressure and the pushback, including from the opposition, It's after you table the bills you want consultation.
Yes.
After you've tabled the bills. And,
Yeah.
and the journalist, the Grenadian journalist earlier, she was quite right. He said, people think that these bills, these two specific bills, are generally self-serving. And that is where we are. So we have... Keisal,
It's the lack of respect for
it's
me.
Totally.
So that exchange that I just played there is not in the minutes of the last sitting, and I know we're going to deal with that on Thursday. Another thing is the adjournment sine-die. But I will leave that there for now, because I do believe our political leader will address that. You know, it's just amazing what this country has become in 7 months. You know, we've always said leadership, politics is serious business for serious people. And not even so much politics, leadership is serious business for serious people. And I don't... The new administration clearly is not serious in how they are approaching their work. We have a caller.
We have opened the lines for calls, and I think we have a call on the line. You're on the record. Remember the number to call, 534-7827, to get on the record this morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Comrade Keisal, and morning, Comrade Carlos, and all my families in the studio.
Good afternoon.
Not everybody.
All the afternoon.
I want to find out something. When is Friday and his group going to come out from kindergarten class? Because I just hearing, get them a chance. I have a little nephew who is in kindergarten, and he going to come out, well, I think he almost out now, to go graduate, to go to, and he can't wait for go to big school. So tell me, when them going to come out of kindergarten school, I just getting tired and fed with this. Get them a chance. 25 years in opposition, and they ain't learn nothing. When they going to learn? This thing is hard, and it's not me one saying it. A lot of people saying the same thing.
And out of people are also observing out of the country as well. Those regionally, those ministers and prime ministers who they interact with.
This is really overbearing.
That's the embarrassing part.
And then they come back again and bringing back this bill again to us. Watch now. We will take the street tonight. We will take the street, because nobody is not no fool with them. You can't tell me that you are a Canadian citizen. No, a case come up. You don't want to listen to the case. You try and going all behind people back without in a consultation with the nation, and you want to bring it back sneaking it. No. We are going to come out on the street, and everybody will be coming out on the street. This is not right. It's not right, Carlos and Keisal. We are not fool with them.
I agree.
He come, he said, oh, you can put a cap on the fuel. Look again. It's almost $20 for a gallon of gas. And the Rubens is saying, carry less carriage and save gas. This is real hot and burning. We're Friday thinking me. He could do what he want, and people just sit by with it and just take it. No. If you can't run government, come out of government. It's not for you. Y'all just feel all to do anything all you want, and we must just sit back here and say nothing. And when we talk, get them a dance. Well, they're now been there. They're now going there.
This is what you call...
No, not so.
This is what you call trial and error. You know? Give them a chance and let's see if they will do anything. And Vincentians are feeling the brunt of this, both from an economic standpoint and also from... lack of governance and serious people to run the affairs of the country.
Exactly, government is a serious people. None of people who are running around this or running around that don't know what they're doing, don't know how to bring them up something, don't know how to come to the nation. But when they go away, and they come back. Nobody know what's take place because they're not saying nothing. And we must just sit down there where we hand full and don't say nothing. It's not so. When our Prime Minister, Dr. Ralphie Gonsalves, go overseas and come back, he called a press conference and we will hear from A to Z. Journalists even questioned him about the strip and all them thing. They can't hear nothing from them here. And I tell them, sit down and give them a chance. Give them a chance for what? I'm getting fed up.
All right, well, don't
let me yesterday telling me Carnival starts Friday, and it's like if Carnival done because nothing's selling.
I don't want your pressure to go up in a love one. Take it easy. I know how you feel about it.
Get real fed up with them.
I know how you feel
when
about it.
I tell all you, I hate NDP with a passion. I hate them, and that is me. You all have a blessed day.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and that's the general sentiment by a lot of Incentians, and quietly so. But interestingly as well, Keisal, it is the sentiment of a lot of NDP supporters, but they are embarrassed and ashamed to come out publicly and say it.
Yeah.
Because they're having the conversations, They're having the conversations with comrades who we know. And they're telling the comrades, boy, this thing embarrassing. And we didn't know it was going to be like this. And, we really thought it was going to be different and better. And there are comrades who voted for NDP, who are Labour, who are now in a state of denial. And they're so shocked as to what is taking place now that they themselves thought, boy, this was our break.
Yeah.
We have another call in the line. Yes, caller, welcome to On The Record. It's your turn.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello?
Yes, caller, good afternoon. You're on the record. We lost the caller. The caller dropped out there. But the caller, if you're hearing us, you can call back. I don't know if that was a technical glitch in the audio. You can, of course, return the call to the studio. The number to call here is 534-7827 to get on the record this afternoon. As we're just a few minutes to winding down the program. We had stop at 1. So we do appreciate those who are listening, those who are calling and making contributions to the program. But Lavon is quite right, and I think a lot of Incentians are of that same opinion. Yes, caller, you're on the record.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon. You're on the record.
Hello.
We're hearing you, caller. We're hearing you clearly.
Hello.
All right, there seems to be some technical challenges there. We're hearing the caller, and I'm sure those who are listening are hearing him. So we're hearing you, caller, but if you're calling back, you can speak. Yeah. So we have to look at how what the disquiet and what is being said in circles that we're not privy to publicly.
Yeah.
And the information that I'm getting, even within the NDP camp, there are people who are saying they're so embarrassed and disappointed with the level of leadership, the quality of leadership that is presenting itself now, that they are really just still trying to figure out what's going on. And if they made the right choice and the right decision in going out to vote for the NDP, there are some people who say, well, it might as well we had leave Ralph and Labour Day, and we're hearing the conversations, we're hearing them, and it is for our comrades, the ones who really passionately love our country and want to see our country go forward. The St. Vincent and the Grenadines, our country, you want to see it go forward. It is for us to get out there and start the process of rebuilding our mass political movement, start the process of our transition in terms of officers of the party, and make a contribution, and let us know that your support is there, and when we want to work with you, and we want to rebuild, we want to grow, and this party, this mass political party, will at some point one day return to office. But we want to ensure we don't return too late when everything is, all the hard work, everything that we've put in, Keisal,
is undone.
And we have to go back and rebuild from scratch, from the foundation. A lot of work went in over the last 2 decades to build this country and to put it to where it is, where we're standing so proudly today as Vincentians. Anywhere in the world, you go and people say, I'm from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And you can hold your flag up high and say, I'm a proud Vincentian. I'm from a country where we're resilient people. We've gone through so much. We've weathered so many storms, the climatic shocks of a volcano, a natural category 5 hurricane, other natural hazards. We've dealt with the global challenges of the 2007, 2008 housing bubble. We've dealt with the challenges of the COVID-19. And all of these things we've been able to do with good leadership, strong leadership, and quality men and women who have served at some of the highest positions and offices in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yes, caller, we want to take this call. If the same caller, just go ahead and make your contribution. We're hearing you.
Leadership, strong leadership.
I think, caller, you're listening to your radio program, and the radio program. That's why there's a delay.
We want to take this call. If the same caller, just go ahead and make your contribution.
Yeah. So I think we have a technical issue with that particular caller, but we continue to hold steadfast, Keisal, that one day Vincentians would appreciate the work of this mass political movement called the Unity Labour Party and what we've done, the contributions that we've made to uplift the ordinary lives of working people, where people like you, poor and working people like you and me from a family background can go off to have education and come back and make our own contribution in our own little way in our country's development. And that is essentially one of the greatest things that Labour has done is that education revolution, which I'm hearing now, Keisal, that public officials are being told that you cannot mention the word education revolution. You cannot say it. Don't mention it in meetings. Don't mention it on the Agency for Public Information or in your government broadcast. Don't mention it in the Ministry of Education. The education revolution never existed, according to the NDP. But the fruits of that revolution, they're all there, sprinkled across the country for every one of us to see. When you have a graduate from MIT in who have Ascension, when you have a young lady, the first female aeronautical engineer coming out of North Leeward in a place called Spring Village, it's there to be mentioned. When you have in North Leeward, and I can speak of the constituency where I'm from because I know the people, where almost in the 8 villages we have at least one medical doctor per community. If we were to have a hospital in every village or a clinic in every village, we would have at least one doctor to serve every community in that constituency. We have over at least 5 to 8 graduates who have done medicine, who came through the education revolution, and we have to pretend that it didn't exist. When you drive across St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it's only people in King Garden and Queens Drive alone could own houses. And you see the quality housing we've built out in Peters Hope, in Fitzhugh, in Cumberland, in different places across the country where we have, even in your area, where we have had improved housing stock. And even the working people, where if you're a public servant, you've gotten the opportunity to have 100% mortgage financed supported by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines through the Bank of St. Vincent, and other banks followed suit on that proposal, all made possible through the government of St. Vincent and the Unity Labour Party government. When you have had the revolution that we're now so glowingly talking about healthcare, as if healthcare suddenly became good after November 27th. Your friend in West Kingston, who is now bigging up the CMO and boasting about the accessibility to healthcare in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In fact, he's saying we have done such a good job that we have so many health services in Bookament, polyclinics in Bookament, this is not me saying it, I'm repeating what Cummins is saying in Stubbs, in Union Island, in Chateaubelair, in Georgetown, and in Marquardt, and health services galore across the country. Well, like when did this happen? After November 27th? When did the CEO suddenly became the one of the best CEOs in CMOs? Sorry, the CMO became one of the best CMOs in the whole Caribbean. Is it after November 27th? Who hired her? Under Labour government. Who constructed and rehabilitated and implemented all of these health facilities, including what we're building out at the Annesville Acute Referral Hospital and the state-of-the-art world pediatric center we have here, one of the best world pediatric centers wings in the Milton Kate Hospital. Where did these things come from? They suddenly appeared after November 27th? The CMO of our health services suddenly became the best after November 27th? You know, and the hypocrisy of these people. And the gall that they have to then make these pronouncements when the very same shadow, at the time when he was Shadow Minister of Health, berated the health services, berated the professionals. He said, we have the worst healthcare in the whole world, and this and that and look at the hospital, and look at this, and he discredited the diagnostic center at Georgetown. Look at where they put it. And then all of a sudden, these health services are suddenly the best. And the professionals in the healthcare are suddenly the best after November 27th? Wow. And I'm glad Vincentians are listening, and I'm glad Vincentians, they have an appreciation of the hypocrisy, the stupidity, and the blatant and obvious lack of any kind of credibility from the ministers currently serving under an NDP government. And I want you to take note of that. These are the things that we have to talk about. These are the things. Suddenly, the best healthcare and health services and professionals, they miraculously on November 27th became wonderful. Remember, the NDP has not built they were not in office for the last 20-something years. So they have not built a single health facility. They have not trained a single doctor or nurse. They have not provided a single scholarship for anyone to do medicine. So when you're giving credit for the health services and the professionals, remember you're giving credit to the ULP government for implementing these things. Yes, caller, we have a call on the line. Welcome to On the Record.
Hello? Keisal and Garland?
Yes, caller, you're on the record.
Hello?
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 Yes, you're on the record. Good afternoon.
You hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Hello?
I think there's a technical issue.
All right, let me
yes.
If you comments, you can't comment on mine, I just comment all the time when Parliament is going on. I have talked comments with a guy, he said shame, and by boldface. Because it's a shame to talk about the polyclinic then, because he's number one that criticized the hospital in Georgetown. So now, as young guys growing up, our parents say, you like credit done, they make something really done now. So then, all of a sudden, he started talking. He started talking now because he get voice to talk. He was sitting quiet all the time. So now, you see everything, he take a good look, he scrutinize, he scope out everything. He come in and want to take the glory. No, he can't take the glory. The glory belongs to the Labour Party and its members and all who support it. So you can't study him at all. Yeah, because he feel in a position he uncomfortable. Don't mind talking. He uncomfortable in the position that he in. Yeah. Because you'll never be a doctor. But you're a minister of health. You always say smelling this in the hospital. I want you to smell something in the hospital now. Yeah? I hope you smell it and clean it up. So what you're talking about, you're taking glory, that's screwing out the confession. And Friday traveling left, right, and center. Nobody know according to Lavon. Nobody know what you're coming back with. Not a soul know what you're coming back with. Only God alone knows. And you have to pray for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. For hoping that, and I thought they could make 2030. Because everybody's complaining, everybody's bawling. Yeah? And the vital people is vital God. The vital people, the vital go out. So when you do something, say, you ask the question, why did he then range? And people imagine being things. The rule of the world set itself against God, people. But God said, let us break this ban. And the ban got a stone break. And people are going to be free again. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much. Very, very important contribution to the conversation, caller. Happy for that. And these are the things that we have to look at. In the last 7 months, there's not been a single thing that the NDP has done that we can say, well, they have moved the needle. Vincentians are really, their lives have improved. The economic situation has improved, and the cost of living crisis has been addressed. And well, you saw the pronouncements, you heard the recordings here this morning, and you heard where there's a cap on fuel at the pump, and you go to the gas station and there's no cap. So the cap blew off, as somebody said. And these are the things that we have to look at. We have to look at their credibility, their weakness, their lack of political astuteness, their inability and unpreparedness in terms of leadership and governance, and of course their blatant abuse of our constitution, whereby they're looking to circumvent the law of the land, go to the parliament to make things retroactive, and to essentially tie the hands of the judge in an election petition matter that is before the court. This is reckless governance. This is poor governance. This is bad governance. And Vincentians, you need to take stock of these things. Take a mental note of how they have operated in the last 7 months is an indication of how they will operate in the next few months into years of this first term. And you have to make that determination as to whether or not you want them to go back there for a second term. And if you want to continue with this sort of what I would say weakness and the lack of any kind of leadership in terms of governance in this country. And I think a few of the persons are saying where they're experiencing some internet issues, and I believe the callers as well, they're also having some challenges. But Keisal, we're winding down the program, and I want you to make your last comments, because this afternoon I think there's graduation, but also there's the junior calypsos this afternoon as well. Yes. So encouraging persons to go to the park and support the youth as well.
Them. Yeah? Well, my alma mater's graduation, Lowman's Leeward Anglican School, is tomorrow, so I anticipate that I'll be there for that. And then Thursday we head into Parliament to debate the bills of the day. We will see how it will unfold. I encourage everybody to tune in. For those of you who don't tune in now, who may not have the time, but find some time and tune in to Parliament on Thursday to see how it unfolds. But, as always, I am happy to be here. Happy to be back on air, after my sabbatical, according to Carlos. But we are here always to place matters on the record. And there are so many more things that we could have discussed today. But next week, God's willing. Well, no, next week, Tuesday. It's Carnival Tuesday. So, I think we'll take our Carnival sabbatical and come back the following week.
No program on Tuesday.
Carnival, Carnival, yes. Tuesday. So... yeah. And we will discuss more all of the developments that have been happening over the last week or so.
Yes.
And so we bring to you the matters on the record that matters are important to the Vincentian people and what you need to know as a Vincentian living in this blessed country of ours. So until next time, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and all who are listening, this is your girl, Keisal Melissa Peters, a.k.a. KMP and Big Deal. And I'm pong for pong, song for song. Yeah. By the time I'm done, I'll have a long list of names like Fireman Hooper. But I take the opportunity as well to wish everybody a happy and safe Carnival weekend for the days that are left. Enjoy yourselves, but do it in moderation and be safe. And please let us have a violence-free Carnival. You know, I join with Skinny Fabulous in his song where he said, "We are one Vinci." You know, we are one Vinci. Let's just come together, and if we are coming together to have fun, and don't bring no fight in the dance. And just be safe, and we will be back with you after the carnival break.
Week. Yeah.
With another edition of On the Record.
Thank you.